Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined, of course, as always, by the fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going, Gray?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Thanks for that exciting welcome, Gray.
Hey, Beaton, what's going on, bro? Woo!
There we go. That's a little bit better. So we're just here as usual, talk about some baseball. Let's go ahead and get started in Texas, where they might actually have.
Before we start, sorry, Beaton, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt because I know you're the host, and I am merely a disciple, a follower of the Beaton coattails as you wear your tuxedo during every podcast, which people can now see if they go on YouTube /Razzball Fantasy, because we're going to be posting the entire podcast on YouTube. So you can view this. You can watch us talk nonsense rather than just listening to us talk nonsense. And maybe, who knows, when I stammer or mispronounce a word, maybe you can read my lips on the YouTube video and see what I'm actually saying versus what it sounds like I'm saying. So, that's enjoyable for people. I also just scribbled out when we started the show, I just scribbled out my name on my coffee cup because I realized that I'm going to be on video now. So, woo! Gotcha, guys. I see you looking at me. Also, I did my hair. Okay, Beaton, and please subscribe. We have to get to 1,000. I will continue telling people to subscribe to the YouTube /Razzball Fantasy until we get to 1,000 subscribers, and then once we get to 1,000, I will no longer talk about this ever again. So get us to 1,000, because we have to get to 1,000, according to Bobby Lamarco, our new fantasy football video guy,
social media director,
social media guru.
Yeah,
who has 21,000 less followers than me. He's the guru. Ask Bobby. He's the guru. Anyway, Beaton, let's get into the show.
Hey, at least Bobby's got more followers than I do, so yeah, he's got something. Let's go ahead and get.
I actually think that's true, to be honest.
Is it not?
It's not true. Okay. No, I think Bobby has like 200 followers. I don't know why we're talking about Bobby's followers.
Okay. Anyways, yes.
We need to build up our people, not knock them down. I realize the site is called Razzball, so our whole je ne sais quoi? No, that's probably not. Our joie de vivre? I don't know. There's a French term for it, but our raison d'entrée, I don't believe is the right term either. Anyway, Beaton, let's go. Come on.
Yes. Okay.
Before YouTube puts us in a French video category.
Yes. Okay. So moving on, we already got the South Korean market. We don't need the French market. We're gonna go ahead and move on. If your question was how many times does Gray roll his eyes at me a show, you can now answer that by yourself. You don't have to ask me. So yes, going to Texas, quite possibly the number 1 and number 2 players over the last 2 weeks might be there. Adolis Garcia, we're going to start with him. He's number 14 on the player radar over the last 4 days. He's hitting 280, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases over that time. He's the number 8 outfielder over the season, number 26 overall player, 234, 12 home runs, 8 stolen bases, 32 runs, 40 RBIs. Adolis Garcia was a guy that I liked in the draft season, as long as you had some average built up. He's even starting to turn around, at least on the average side in recent days. Where are you on Adolis Garcia right now? And kind of as we're looking forward for the rest of the season, Gray, he's putting up at least the home runs and stolen bases side of it. Right.
Yeah, no, totally. It goes back to a thing I say often in the preseason, at least, about how, like, with hitters, if you can get 5 categories like Adolis Garcia, that makes such a huge difference when it comes to fantasy value. It seems like I'm stating the obvious, but I don't think people truly appreciate how obvious it is. Because like if you have like Adolis Garcia right now is actually 21 overall on the player rater. With today's update, I think you might have did the notes
Yeah,
yesterday.
I did this last night. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, but if you look at him and you're like, okay, but like a Vlad Guerrero Jr. who's been fine. I believe as of the recording of this, he has 14 homers. He's got RBIs. He's got runs. He doesn't quite have the batting average yet. But as you mentioned, Adolis Garcia doesn't have batting average either. But if you look at Vlad Guerrero Jr. without batting average, he's 61 on the player rater, and Adolis Garcia is 21 on the player rater. And that's simply because Adolis Garcia adds in some steals, like not even a lot. I mean, he has 9 steals on the year as of this recording. So it's not like he has a ton of steals, but he's been really good in a 5-category type way, which is also, I think actually Adolis Garcia was my last sleeper to drop in January prior to the rankings. So yeah, I was a fan of like Adolis Garcia. I think I liked Adolis Garcia, a lot more than most people across like fantasy baseball community, which is a large group of men in their mother's basement tweeting and podcasting. Hey guys, what's going on? Leave your mom alone. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think which is surprising, but I don't think people truly appreciate Adolis Garcia even to this day. Like even as he is a near top 20 guy overall. Like if you look at the guys right by Adolis Garcia on the player rater, you have Jazz Chisholm, Julio Rodriguez, Tony Gosling, Alek Manoah, Francisco Lindor. Like these guys are all within like $1 of his value. If you were to say all those names I just said, they are so like far and wide appreciated more than Adolis Garcia. Like if you were to say to someone like, do you want Adolis Garcia or Julio Rodriguez? People would be like, are you drunk? hey, bro, are you drunk? Because you sound drunk. Or if you're like, Adolis Garcia or Jazz Chisholm, people be like, I'm going to like send you away. You need help, bro. Seriously, like Adolis Garcia does not appreciate at all. And he wasn't appreciated coming into this year. He wasn't appreciated last year when he was actually good. Like, I don't know why. Like, it could be the Rangers situation because, Texas Rangers it's a pretty boring team.
Yeah.
They went out and spent like $500 million and they are still so boring. They're a hard team to watch. Like, I can watch just about any team. I think I'd prefer to watch the Pirates over the Rangers. Anyway, I would say like Adolis Garcia was great last year, unappreciated coming into this year, is still good, and I still think unappreciated. Like no one really cares about Adolis Garcia for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, I love him. I think he's great. He's so valuable. Like if you are looking for a guy who would go, I don't know, say 30, 20, 100 runs, 100 RBIs, and a 245 plus average, I mean, that's a top 20 player. And that's Adolis Garcia. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. Anyway, go ahead, B-Don. What were you going to say?
Oh, I mean, I think you pretty much summed everything up there. I mean, he's sitting in the 3 through 5 range in the lineup. He doesn't really move from that area. He's got the only 2 other people and capable of hitting in Texas in front of him, and Semien and Seager. Although Seager's not been exactly what Texas thought they were paying for either. But yeah, I'm with you. I like Adolis Garcia. I mean, if we look at the numbers, everything across the board looks in line or better than last year, actually. And then if we just look at some of the expected numbers, like his expected batting average right now is 271. Like he's hitting 239 right now. Like he's expected, he should be hitting 271 right now. So there's room to go up in the average, which is really the only thing that he's missing. So, I don't understand why he doesn't get it. Maybe it's because he definitely was a late breakout. When you break out at 28, your second season's at 29, you don't get the same kind of love that you do otherwise. But I mean, he's doing everything you could possibly want at this point. I think if somebody is willing to sell him, I'm willing to buy, because I do. I think the average is going to continue to move up. I mean, 9 stolen bases, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but he's top 20 in stolen bases right now because there's nobody stealing bases. So yeah, I'm with you. I like Adolesce Garcia rest of
Also,
season.
like, and one other name that I didn't mention, like, if someone were to say like Adolis Garcia or Austin Riley, it's another one where it's like, well, obviously Austin Riley, right? But
Yeah.
no, it's not. I mean, Adolis Garcia is beating Austin Riley by $3 on the player rater. That's a decent amount. I mean, that's the difference between like Sandy Alcantara and Kyle Wright, $3. Actually, no, that's a little bit more, but it's close anyway.
I mean,
Adolis Garcia is way more valuable than people realize.
yeah, and to your point about the stolen bases, I mean, Stanton, who's had a great season to this point by all accounts, he's 58. Dallas is 21. Stolen bases are part of value now, especially as hard as they are to come by. I mean, I mentioned, some of the people not living up to contracts. Javier Baez is one of them. I mean, he's been dropped in 10-team leagues. He's been dropped in 12-team leagues. You said you're starting to see him dropped in 14 and 15-team leagues. I mean, he's hitting 197, 242, 301. He has 3 home runs, 1 stolen base. It is the worst average exit velocity of his career, the worst barrel rate, the 3rd worst hard hit rate since like his rookie and second season. I guess on the positive side, he does have a 254 BABIP versus a career 330, although that was at Wrigley. The K rate isn't great, but it is at least better than the last 2 seasons. But unfortunately, the contact rate, swinging strike rate, they're continuing to fall. What are you doing with Javier Baez? Are you holding on and expecting something to change, or what's going on?
So I just was looking at Javier Baez's slider page. Actually, so I went to look at Javier Baez's page for his batting average against sliders, and Google said, "Are you really sure?" It's good. And then I said yes, and Google said, "Really though, because it's not pretty." And then I said, "Yeah, no, seriously, Google, show it to me." And then Google said, "I don't think you want to see it." It's so bad, man. I don't get, like, honestly, like his batting average against like sliders and just like everything against sliders. I don't know why. Like, he's having a extremely hard time with the slider. Right now he's got a 51% ground ball rate when he actually does make contact with a slider. His strikeout rate against the slider is 42%. 42%. His average against the slider is 110. He's you or I suddenly dreamcasting ourselves onto a major league team and facing Shane Bieber with a slider. Like, that's essentially Javier Baez. Like, you or I could probably hit as well as Javier Baez against a slider. There's no reason anyone should throw him anything else until he figures this out. Like, I don't know. Like, if I were a major league pitcher, I would be like, yeah, I'm throwing Javier Baez a slider, man. I mean, like, it's so obvious. Like, if you look at, and even I think it's obvious, probably even to the dopey Major League Baseball players and coaches, because, like, if you look at his pitches, like, he's seen 246 sliders as of the recording of this. Last year, he saw a little over 500. I mean, he's already seen almost half of last year, and we're nowhere near the halfway mark of the season. So he's flying through, like, how many sliders he's seeing, like, on average. Like, he is seeing nothing but sliders, and for good reason. He can't hit them. I don't know why. I mean, it's almost like he's got the yips, but for hitting, which is bizarre because usually that's a thing for throwing or fielding. Yeah, I don't know, man. I honestly, I don't know if there's a fix here. I mean, there is. Like, he could fix what he's doing against sliders. I guess that could be a fix. But honestly, like he's got like he needs to really like figure out like what's going on. Like if he is, because he's in a terrible situation too. Like because the slider is usually like, you know, if a pitcher gets ahead of if a pitcher falls behind a hitter, then he's going to throw, you know, fastballs. So Javier Baez needs to work the count. Not something Javier Baez does. He doesn't work the count. Like, it's just not in his nature to work the count. So he's constantly falling behind and he's getting eaten up. Like, if you were to see Javier Baez, like, he'd be like the easiest hitter to, like, you know, strategize against. Like, if he were coming up, you start him off with a slider. If he doesn't bite for whatever reason, he probably will. But if he doesn't bite, throw him another slider. Just keep throwing sliders. And if the pitcher doesn't know how to throw a slider, then he should learn before the game, because he's about to face Javier Baez. Yeah, I mean, it's really bad, man. And you know, like when someone in the comments, I believe Fausto, frequent commenter, Fausto, hey, shout out. He also has a Sagnoff tattoo, so big, longtime fan, longtime friend of Rasball. He was the one who mentioned in his 14-team league that Javier Baez got dropped, which is how Javier Baez ended up on our podcast outline. And when I saw that, I was like thinking like, well, at first I was like, oh, I don't know. Would you drop Javier Baez in that deep of a league? And then I started looking at his numbers, and it's like, yeah, I don't know why you would keep Javier Baez. Like, honestly, there's better guys in a 14-team league, at least. There's better guys on waivers, probably. I mean, it would stink to lose Javier Baez and what you thought you were going to get, but I don't think you're going to get what you thought you were going to get.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good right now. I mean, in surprisingly, like, I know it's going to sound shocking to everybody as you're listening to this and you know Javier Baez's profile. He's actually been positive against the slider in his career. Like, his run value against the slider is positive, like almost every year except for this year, where it is a -10 and just buried in the absolute worst possible thing I've ever seen in regards to a versus pitch type of thing. So I really don't know what's going on with him. It's like I said, it's not a pitch that he's typically, you know, struggled with. It's one of the few pitches.
Yeah, I'm sorry
sorry
not to interrupt, but yeah, that's a good point. Like his slugging percentage against the slider last year was .582. This year it's 137.
Yeah.
What? That's so awful. His on-base percentage last year was last year, his batting average against the slider was 297. And as I said, it's 110 now. I mean, it's so bad. So bad.
Yeah, so it's really just about that. I mean, I think if he can figure that out, he could get back on track. I will say this is also the first time he's been in the AL, so it is also just the thing where he's acclimating to pitchers that he's never really seen before. So there may be something there. I think in a 15-team league, it would be really hard for me to drop him. I would like to bench him, but if you're already stashing like a CJ Abrams or a Kalinick on your team, or if you're loaded with ILs, I could see the position where you're in, where you might have to let him go because of what it's looked like so far, which is just awful.
Oh my God! I just looked up his ranking on the player rater. Oh,
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh man! Oh, it's so bad. He's 744 overall.
Don't do that.
He's 744 overall. In front of him are such well-known guys as Gilberto Celestino, the Twins platoon bench outfielder. Aladamas Diaz, easy for me to say. Christian Arrojo, and Jackie Bradley Jr. Yeah, just some really, really exciting names. Actually, Austin Hedges is almost 70 spots ahead of Javier Baez. Sorry. Okay.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah, bad.
oh
It's
yeah,
bad.
that's painful. That hurts. That hurts. But yes, not so great. But I guess one case where a guy did start slow and is starting to kind of come back, as we started with Texas, and we're kind of coming back to it, is Marcus Semien. Number one on the play rater over the last 7 days. He's hitting 480, 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases. I mean, is he back, or are you trying to sell Marcus Semien off during this hot stretch and try and grab whatever value you can before it falls off? What are you thinking here?
Was the honestly was that Marcus Semien the 7 day player rater was that a thing where he had that one huge double header and then he hasn't done anything since then, has he? I think he's had like one hit since then.
He had 3 games that were really really amazing. He had
I know.
Seattle,
Yeah.
Cleveland, Cleveland.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it was a
Right. Yeah.
doubleheader, but he
No.
did
I
have a home
see.
run in the Seattle game beforehand.
Right, I see it. I see his game log now. Yeah. So he had 3 games that were like fantastic. He had 4 homers in 3 games. And then on Sunday he went 0 for 6. The day before he went 1 for 6. The day before that he went 0 for 4. The day before that he went 0 for 4. I mean, you know what? I said to sell Marcus Semien prior to that big doubleheader. And I stand by that. I mean, his expected batting average is 214. He's got like, he's really been super like I don't like I just don't think he's got like the power to get it out in what is it Globe Life. I mean he does. I guess that's unfair. I mean, he can hit it out of Globe Life. It's a tough stadium though. It's not an easy stadium to hit home runs in. Before I'm old enough to remember 2019. Hey, I'm 3 years old. Anyway, I'm old enough to remember when he was like a 30 homer, 250, 260, 265 guy. I mean, in 2019, he hit 285, but that was a bit of an outlier. Anyway, long story short is he was always a 30 homer, 27 to 30 homer, 10 to 15 steal, 250-ish, 260-ish hitter. And that's what he always was. Last year, I mean, he got super lucky. He got he got lucky for power. He got lucky for everything. I mean, he was in really good stadiums for half the year when the Jays were playing in minor league parks. He was in a position to really have a career year, and he did. He had that career year. Now, I think what we're seeing is him coming back to the player that he used to be. I don't know if he's actually going to get to 25 homers, to be honest. I think right now the projections say he's going to get to about 24 homers. So it'll be close. So potential, but I don't know. I mean, I would put his over-under still at like 27 probably. So that means he gets hot. I think he probably hits 250. So 27 homers. He's got good speed. He's actually running a bunch this year, which is good. He's making up for his lack of power. He's got 10 steals already. And, if he gets to 20 steals, if he gets to a 25, 20, 250 year, that's totally worth, the price you paid. I mean, it's not exactly what you were expecting, but, you can't always get what you want. You get what you need. You know what I'm saying? as I suddenly became a New York Italian singing Rolling Stones. Anyway, I think Marcus Semien is probably going to be fine. I think he's going to be valuable enough. I just think that there's a potential here where like he could potentially have like a low year for average, maybe a low year for power. Maybe he goes 20, maybe he hits 22 homers and steals 20 bags. 22, 20, 230 is probably the floor I'm at for what he could potentially do. That's not awful. I mean, it's not unusable, but that's probably top 75 versus, the top 25 to 30 overall that he was getting drafted at. It was always a little bit too high. It was a position like he was being overdrafted. I think that was pointed out by both of us in the preseason. He was going too high originally, and now he's probably going to fall back to where he was. And that's fine, but, probably not exactly what people were expecting.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And if we're just looking at like what his numbers comp to in regards to his own personal seasons, honestly, the closest comp to what he's currently doing with the bat is 2018, where he went 15-14 and hit 255. And that, I think that's kind of, other than the steals, which he does continue, he is running more than like maybe he's ever run right now. Other than that, I think those numbers seem like they're pretty much like top numbers that I'm expecting, like 15 home runs and 255 out of from 6 and 217 right now. I think those would be like dream numbers rest of season from him. Maybe he could hit some more for some more power. He's found it in the past, but it just doesn't look like that. And when I'm looking at bat speed, I mean, you can kind of watch in game a little bit, but when we're really thinking about like a player's decline, which he is kind of towards that number at 31 where the decline starts to happen, I look at a couple things. One's first pitch swing rate, and the other one is versus fastball. His first pitch swing rate is up 6.5% from last year. So he's trying to get ahead of balls and trying to like jump on first pitch fastballs and just ripping away through the zone. And then the other one is how he's doing against fastballs, because that's obviously the pitch we're looking at. Last year against fastballs, he hit 295 with a WOBA of 435. Right now, he's hitting 156 with a WOBA of 277.
That's good. Those are really those are smart things to look at. You're 100% correct. He's probably aging. His bat's slowing a little bit. You see that with aging hitters. You probably, if we looked at Joey Votto, his stats probably look something similar.
Yeah. Just every time his bat slows down a little bit, maybe he works out harder in the next off season and brings back a little bit. But yeah, right now I'm pretty much ready to sell Semien for anything I can get that's going to help my team. Kyle Schwarber was a guy that he's always going to hit for the power. The question's always average. He's coming alive so far in June, hitting well. Are you interested in Kyle Schwarber rest of season? And I'm going to put his over under at average at 230, and you tell me whether you're taking over or under.
I'm going to say under. I think he's, I think he's a great bet for power. I think he's probably, I could see possibly 35 homers and 225, 228, maybe. The fly ball rate is like crazy high, which, I mean, for him, it's not the worst thing. I mean, there's worse things to see than a crazy high fly ball rate for a power hitter like him. But he is going to hit a ton of like 387 foot outs too. I mean, it's what's going to happen. So, I mean, I could see his homer per fly ball being above 20%. If he gets anywhere close really to like his homer per fly ball of 20% and a 50% fly ball rate, I mean, he could potentially hit 34 to 36 homers. Like I said, I like Schwarber. I think he gets hot. He gets crazy hot at times where people, I think, expect a little bit more than he's going to give. He's decent for on base percentage. He's fine for power. He's not really going to give you anything else. And RBIs, obviously, assuming he's not hitting leadoff, which he has been, which is,
he has,
I mean, Rob Thomas, great adult contemporary singer, not such a great manager. No, actually, he's doing better than Joe Girardi, at least for, with a sample size of 2 weeks. I mean, Schwarber is what he is. He's a power hitter. He's fine. I don't have anything against him. I think, I think his projections actually look like they're coming out to about 38 homers. So at 35, I might be on the low side. But yeah, I mean, also, I think I'm on the low side of his average because I think he's hitting more fly balls than he's ever hit in his life. So I just think his average probably is not going to get up to the 230 range.
Yeah. Okay. I think the smart part of my brain wants to say I'm with you, but Kyle Schwarber does this thing where in the second half he gets hot for like 3 months at a time, and the average just kind of carries up for the rest of the season. So I'm just kind of expecting that to happen again. And every year we think it's him. At least, as a Cubs fan watching him, we always think it's him turning the corner, and really it's just him seeing the ball really well for a little while. So yeah, I'd say again, my brain says yes, you're right, under 230, but my heart says over 230. So just depends on what day you catch me, I guess. Talking about a couple of prospects that may get called up here as the Red Sox need arms. Brayan Bello, we're gonna start with him. He's one of the top arms in the Red Sox system. I mean, he's got a fastball slider change. It kind of 93 to 95. I've heard he can top it out like 97, 98. And the other guy is Kutter Crawford. He's kind of been up and he's been up and down a little bit before, so we've seen him in glimpses the last 2 seasons. It's never been great when he comes up. But in the minors, it looks pretty solid, at least from a K rate. Are you in on either of these guys? Are you picking them up?
So I just while you were talking, I was listening, but I was also typing, and I was looking up to see what Itch had said about Bellow recently, because I had just gone over Kutter Crawford on the site on Monday, so people can look at my thoughts on him from Monday. I don't mind Crawford, by the way, but his command isn't great. With Bello, it looks like Itch likes him. It looks like he added velocity. I think he's probably, he's another guy who's the command isn't really pristine enough for me to feel really that safe with him. I think I'm probably, I wasn't really, if you read the Kutter Crawford post, I wasn't really super high on him. Mm-hmm. Also not crazy high on Bello. At least like command wise, I really tend to kind of shy away from rookie pitchers who have command issues. Like if there's command issues, it could lead to a roofie, and before you know it, you're losing a kidney in an Afghani cave. It's not great. It's something you try and avoid. So I don't mind them. Like AL only, obviously everyone's ownable. 15 team mixed league. Yeah, okay. If you want to do a flyer, I guess that's fine. But these guys aren't outside of maybe streamers. I need to see more, or at least something as in regards to Bello before I add them in shallower mixed leagues.
Yeah, I mean Bello is kind of a I don't think he's actually officially got the call up yet. We're still kind of waiting to see if they're going to give him the nod. But I mean, just by the way he's performed, I'm guessing it's going to be him. I think in a deeper league, in a 12 team with a really deep bench, or when we get into 15 teams, you already said obviously AL onlys. I do think I'm adding Bello just because he does have the K rate upside to potentially just come up and have a hot streak to start up in the majors. You can kind of get away with control a little bit as guys figure you out. But there is, of course, that concern where if he just walks some guys and then gives up a bomb, that ERA of yours can skyrocket for sure. But yeah, I mean, Bello's definitely the guy of the two that I'm adding and speculating on, at least, even though Kutter is already up.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, talking about another call up here is Gabriel Moreno. Danny Jansen goes to the IL, so he's going to get called up. I mean, the Blue Jays already kind of had, a number. They already have their catcher right now. I mean, Christian Kirk's been great this year. Alejandro Kirk. I'm mixing up my Kirks here. Alejandro Kirk's been great. But Gabriel Moreno is one of the top prospects in the system. kind of the starter Rio Muto package. A little bit of speed, a little bit of power, good bat control. I've heard he's good with pitchers, but that's really hard to tell until he comes up to the majors. What are you thinking with Gabriel Moreno? With the playing time concerns, is he worth it in, I'm going to say, a deeper 12-team two-catcher league?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I mean, in a two-catcher league, I guess, if you want to take a flyer, if you want to not do the Jonah Hames of the world and instead try a Marino for like a week or two, or I guess a month while Danny Jansen's fractured pinky is fractured. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fine if you want to take a flyer. You're probably going to be better off going with a Jonah Haim or a who else, like Omar Narvaez, or there's probably guys who are better who are available. But yeah, I mean, if you want to take a flyer on the an upside, I guess it's not the worst thing you could do. Alejandro Kirk, I mean, he's the starter. There's no at bats for Moreno at all. Like if Kirk, as long as Kirk is healthy, and he is, I mean, not only is he the starter, but he looks great. So yeah, I mean, there's really no reason for Moreno. I looked for him like in our in some of our 15-team mixed league fabs. I looked for Moreno. He wasn't available yet because NFBC they have this thing where when a rookie's called up, he has to get an at bat before he's available. So he wasn't available. At least when I looked, he wasn't available. Maybe by Sunday he was. But I guess that sort of shows you my enthusiasm for him. I didn't even, really look that hard on Sunday after he got at bats. I was like, I don't know. I mean, he's fine. I don't see the playing time though.
Yeah. I mean, he played a couple of games, and then what they've done when he's played is actually move Kirk to DH and give him his days off at DH. So maybe there's some ways for him to get in that way. Like you said, I think in a two-catcher league, if you're just kind of streaming the position, I have no problem picking him up and seeing if he gets some playing time. But that is a concern, as we're not really sure how much the Blue Jays are willing to use him at this time. But it's really not a big deal because you're probably not getting a lot out of your streaming second catcher anyway. So I'm perfectly fine taking that shot on him rather than continuing to stream the position. But you're probably right. Ultimately, any of those guys are likely to give you the same kind of production over this period. Rookie catchers don't exactly have a sterling reputation as fantasy producers. Moving on to a rookie that didn't start off sterling this year, but is starting to come around his last couple of starts, is Hunter Greene, number one starting pitcher on the play radar this week, or last week, I should say. He did have a 2-start week, so 12 innings, 15 Ks, 1 earned, 2 walks. Where are you at on Hunter Greene? I picked him up in a couple of leagues where he got dropped this week just to see if maybe he's figured out the command. As I said, 12 innings, only 2 walks, which is nice to see. Top 50, top 40 starting pitcher rest of the season, or are we still a little bit too high? Is he more in that streaming territory for you?
Yeah, I think if Hunter Greene is able to figure out his command, I mean, he could be a top 40 starter, I think, pretty easily. Even if he continues to give up homers like out of control, if his command is there, that could really change that could change the game for him. I don't know if it's there though. I mean, it was last week, but I wouldn't be surprised if this week it's not there. Like, it's definitely it's an issue for him still. He's still got a high walk per 9. It's his command is, if his command is there, he could be an ace like we saw the last week. If his command's not there, he could be like unusable. And I really think that it could go from start to start where you're not necessarily sure what you're going to get. Like, I started him in a 15-team mixed league, and I was happy with the results last week. But I know I'm starting him again this week, and I know there's a chance that it could just be as bad as it was good last week. So I'm in, but super tentatively.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Like I want to pick him up just because, like we said, like the upside is great. He could potentially be a top 20, top even 10 eventually. Eventually, he's got to get the innings kind of built up, but like he could be an amazing pitcher for fantasy. But we do need to see that just kind of play out a little bit longer to make sure that this control isn't just a little blip. This week he's at home versus Milwaukee. Cincinnati is kind of an awful place to be at right now as far as pitching, and pretty much always. Um, are you interested in versus Milwaukee at home?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm starting them. I'm not. I don't feel like it's safe though. I mean, I don't. Unfortunately, like you kind of alluded to, even his home park is kind of a dangerous park. So when he's home, usually pitchers when they're home, they're better than if they're away. 9 times out of 10, the 10th is always a Rockies pitcher. But yeah, I mean, Cincinnati is not a great place either, though. It's kind of we saw it for a while. The old heads will remember Homer Bailey or Aaron Harang, and then the new heads will be Tyler Mahle and Hunter Greene now, and it's just
Luis
not
Castillo.
it's not yeah exactly yeah it's just not a great park. It's a real hitter friendly homer park, and for Hunter Greene, homer parks are it's not a great place to be. But yeah, I mean, I'm starting them for sure because where I have them, I kind of have no choice, to be honest. But even if I were in a 12-team mixed league, I'm starting them because if I have them, I mean, if you're not starting him at home, just drop him. You don't deserve him. I'm sorry, but if you have him, you have to start him at home. And the Brewers are not. I mean, the Brewers strike out a lot, so Hunter Greene actually could have a terrific start against the Brewers. If he gets, if he's able to locate, he can strike out that lineup. Like he can have a 10 plus K game against the Brewers. He could also have a 3 inning, 6-homer allowed. Like, wow, I didn't know Christian Yelich could hit 2 homers in an inning. Wow, he's back. Like, yeah, I mean, it could be bad, but it could also be very good.
Hunter Greene is very much like my golf game. It could be either one anytime.
Yeah, Hunter Greene. Actually, someone mentioned. I'm sorry, I don't know who it was, but someone in the comments said Hunter Greene, when he's going well and he's able to locate his pitches, Hunter Greene is camo, because Hunter Greene camo, and then when he's not doing well, he's fatigues. I thought that was pretty good. Anyway,
nice. Yeah, give shout outs to our commenters when they write worthwhile stuff and witty things out there. Let's talk about another.
The best shout outs are when I forget the person's name.
When we don't know them, yeah, but they're listening, they understand, they know it's them. They'll tell you who it is in their next comment. Hey, that was me, jerk. Why didn't you remember me? Let's talk about a guy who's returning from. I mean, he hasn't pitched all season. I hope you didn't start him. Steven Strasburg. He has a 2-start week this week, but he looked absolutely awful and just got bombed in his first start. I mean, he's throwing a sub 90 on the fastball. That's not what we want to see from Steven Strasburg. I mean, his velocity's been down for a few seasons now. Where do you have him rest of the season? Are you even do you want him on your roster, or are we? Where are you at?
No, I don't. I don't know. I think I said something in the last time I mentioned him. I think his over under is around 50 innings pitched this year. I don't know. I don't have much hope, to be honest. It's hard because he was great for a long time, really good. But he's only, I mean, he's only pitched like, what is that, 30 innings in the last 3 years. I mean, I don't know, man. I think he's probably, the best days are behind him, unfortunately. I would be surprised if he's able to pitch 50 innings. Honestly, if I'm saying 50 innings over under, I'm probably taking the under on 50. So yeah, it's not great. I would say I'm as far out on him as I am on just about anyone. I'm not, like, probably I would probably take a chance on Strasburg over Patrick Corbin because a healthy Patrick Corbin is much worse than an unhealthy Strasburg. But yeah, I'm not in on either.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, talking about his fastball velocity in 2018, which was the last time we saw any kind of meaningful innings from him, it was 95. In his outing again this last week, it was 90 and sub 90 for most of the game, honestly. So it's not a great look. I have him in a couple of deeper leagues, just hoping, but these two start weeks, it's going to determine whether he gets held onto or not. Just wanted to mention Royce Lewis out rest of the season, ACL tear. That's a little depressing as he was showing great things from as a rookie. I guess, Gray, anything to say in regards to Royce Lewis kind of next year as we look at him from a dynasty perspective? Any concern about how he comes back here?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of concern considering it's an ACL tear on the same knee that he injured last time. So yeah, I would say get a better doctor, bro. I would say first of all, are you in a PPO or an HMO? Because whatever you're in, go in the opposite one. I mean it sucks, man. I don't know. I would be really concerned if I had him in a dynasty league. I think he's super talented. His battle play, but the same knee. I mean, I don't know. That's not a recurring injury you want to see. So yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, especially when you were looking at a power speed guy. I do agree. I think his bat will play. I don't know that his power is necessarily going to be enough to play up, though, to where, his bat and his power are going to kind of sustain him in shallow leagues. If he hits to the top of the lineup, so be it. He can carry it in some runs there. But yeah, I'm a little concerned. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about the bullpens, Gray.
All right.
Who you got for the SAG offers out there for some possible save changes or anybody to keep an eye out on?
The Phillies. Well, first of all, the Red Sox seem like they're looking at Tanner Houck for closer, which is good for, I guess, for his value. For people like me who drafted him back in November of last year as a sleeper starter in like a draft champions league, I suddenly fell into a closer, which I wasn't expecting, but it's actually it's kind of welcome. I'll take it. I think Tanner Houck could be as good as any closer, probably more like a maybe 7th to 10th closer off the board if he were, to get every save opportunity, which he could. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't use him as a closer. It's like they have no one else, so sure, why not? And then the Phillies are another interesting one where we might know more information by the time this podcast comes out, but Corey Knebel is saying he's got shoulder tightness. That's not good. I mean, no one seems really, I don't know, like from the general vibe I'm getting from the comments on Monday, I didn't really feel like people were that cared that much, but that could really be like a huge situation. Like if Corey Knebel is, if Corey Knebel needs to go on the IL with any sort of shoulder issue, I mean, that's really bad. So Sir Anthony Hopkins Dominguez could be the closer. I kind of think Brad Hand, but I don't know. I mean, I think the Phillies reporters are saying Sir Anthony Dominguez, OBE, but I mean, I don't know. Brad Hand has done it before. It's a tough call as of right now. It could be either one. But Knebel, I mean, shoulder tightness is bad, so I would definitely be looking at that. And then in Miami, I was talking to Craig Mish, Marlins reporter, earlier, late last week. And he was saying, which is sort of been what the, what has sort of been the story all along, that he was saying like Mattingly really wants to have a closer. Like he wants a guy for the 9th inning. And that's kind of, reading the tea leaves, it does seem that way. So the fact that Tanner Scott has gotten the last few saves, I guess it's like I would personally go to Anthony Bass. Mish was saying that he thought Anthony Bass too, but Tanner Scott's getting the save. So Tanner Scott's the man for now, at least. I mean, like Mattingly wants a closer. Tanner Scott's getting saves. He's the closer then until further notice, which, could be good, possibly valuable pickup in league. So yeah, I'd look at those guys for, bullpens this week.
Yeah, and Anthony Bender's out in Miami, so that takes another possible option off the table. So yeah, I think Tanner Scott's the guy for now. It's not like Bender deserved to have the spot either. So I think if Scott does well, there's no reason they won't have him in there. Maybe the only thing going against hand is I think the Phillies only have 2 lefties in their bullpen, so maybe that's why he might get pushed back. And I will say Matt Strom in Boston has gotten a couple of random saves when it's been lefty heavy in the ninth. So they may be doing kind of a righty lefty save thing in Boston with Hawk and Strom, and they're not afraid to let Hawk go, 2 or 3 innings because he was a starter. I do think he could be a very successful closer, though. The K rate in the bullpen is, what you're looking for from a top reliever. So I think there is all that possibility. And then you mentioned the injury to Knievel. I think Mark Melancon kind of not feeling great, not performing. We know he's not performing, but if there's an injury and he has to go on the IL, or if that's a reason to pull him from the job, then I think Ian Kennedy is somebody you could potentially speculate on in Arizona as well.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, waivers, Gray. Who you got for everybody before we get out of here?
Well, Alex Kiriloff, was he called up?
No, I thought he got called up. I put that in the notes, but no, he has not been officially called up. I saw a fake post, I think.
Yeah, you really love Alex Kiriloff.
Oh, I love him. He is my boy. I've been waiting for him.
That's our ongoing our ongoing narrative for this year.
Our first 2 guys are just my guys, and I'm just going to keep putting them on here until everything happens right.
It's like, yeah, okay. So beat on saying Alex Kiriloff.
He's coming.
Get him. He's
coming up.
He's coming up any second now. Okay, so Jake Berger's been hot. Who else has been actually surprisingly hot? Christian Bethancourt. He's catcher eligibility. So I looked at him in a couple 15-team 2-catcher leagues. I went out and got Christian Bethancourt. He was hitting third. For most people, that's kind of irrelevant. So I'll move on. John Birdie's been getting steals. I mean, that's also kind of a deeper league guy. I know steals are steals and Sagnoff is Sagnoff, but John Birdie, you can't, I don't know. You kind of need a deeper league, I think, before you can get a Birdie type. But he's been great for deeper leagues. Like I have him in an NL only league where he's been like fabulous. Eduardo Escobar's been very good. I think there's also Seth Brown going back to the A's. He had a good Sunday, which is, a small sample size, but he's been decent. I like, honestly, out of all these guys, probably Berger's probably been the hottest, which is like goofy. Not exactly like, I don't know. It's not necessarily the strongest bet because of La Russa and, just with platooning. I know that, Seth Brown is really high on the 7-day player rater. Michael A. Taylor's also, he was hot this past weekend. I think I labeled him a schmatato and Sunday's Post. McCutcheon's been good. Matt Carpenter. I mean, if Matt Carpenter's available in your leagues, he had a great, obviously a great Sunday, but I think I read something like he had the most homers like in the first 11 games for the Yankees since like, I don't know. I want to say like Kevin Moss, but I don't know. He's definitely like Matt Carpenter has been like ridiculous in New York, like for his time. And Bobby Dalbec has been hot recently. So yeah, there's some guys. Kevin Kiermaier's been hot. I'm just grabbing guys from the 7-day player rater, really. But yeah, they've been hot.
Yeah, JD Davis is another one. Jace Peterson has some nice position eligibility. If you're in any kind of league with shallow benches, I like those guys that have multiple eligibility because then you don't have to bench like an outfielder, a first baseman, second baseman, third baseman. You bench one guy to cover those spots. Mitch Keller, our preseason, fantasy interest because of the velocity, has actually put in a couple of nice performances back to back. He's kind of I'd say he's a lesser Hunter Greene because I know Keller. People loved Keller when he was coming up as prospect, but all that kind of fell off of him a little bit. So I think I'd rather have Hunter Greene, but if he's gone, Mitch Keller's interesting.
There's also there's a bit of a narrative to Keller because supposedly he got help with his sinker. So from Clay Holmes, the ex-Pirate, current Yankees closer, supposedly Keller got help with his sinker. So there's a bit of a narrative there with Keller, which I don't know. I mean, maybe a lot of the times I feel like that's overblown, but yeah, I mean, potentially Keller, sure.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about guys you can potentially throw that dart on if you're looking for anybody out in your wires. A few prospects real quick. Ryan Pepiot, potentially getting the call up, or I think he's already up. Gil Ramos and Khalil Lee. These are deep league guys. Not really anything too exciting, but all with a little bit of speed. Ramos and Lee with some speed. So if you're just looking for a deep league flyer on that side, Nick Martinez, Graham Ashcraft, if you're in deep leagues, because he's not really getting strikeouts, but he's pitching well. And then we talked about Michael Harris and Ezekiel Duran last week. So if they are still out in your leagues, go grab them now.
Oh, that sounds good.
All right. Well, then if that sounds good, we'll wrap it up right there then, Gray. As you mentioned off the top, we are now on YouTube, the full show, so you can listen to everything and watch us as we go through. We are actually also expanding, into the modern era.
I forgot I should have wore pants for this. Oh my God. I realized we might have to re-record. I'm sorry. Go, continue. Finish your outro. I'm sorry.
My outro spiel to get everybody. Yeah. So go subscribe to that. That way Gray doesn't have to read the thing off the top every single show the rest of the way. We're also moving into Twitter, or outside of just Twitter. We have Instagram, TikTok, at Razzball Fantasy. If you want to watch clips from this show or the football shows that we're doing as well. So all sorts of fun stuff out there on the social media. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is, of course, the owner of the at Razzball account. If you have specific comments, you can send them there or in the comments on the post. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Late.